My name is Nora Evans, and I am 39 years old. This is my story, a tale of what seemed like a dream life, a perfect marriage, a beautiful home, and a bright future, which turned out to be nothing more than an illusion. My story is one of hope, betrayal, and ultimately reclaiming my independence. I met Ethan Roberts at a friend's barbecue in Austin, Texas. He was charming, confident, and the life of the party. His laughter was contagious, and his sharp wit kept everyone around him entertained. When he approached me, I couldn't help but be captivated. "You look like you don't belong to this crowd," he joked with a warm smile, handing me a glass of lemonade. From that moment, our conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about books, travel, and our shared love for hiking. He seemed perfect, like someone who understood me completely. After that evening, Ethan wasted no time in pursuing me. He would text me good morning every day, plan spontaneous dates, and make me feel like the most important person in the world. His attention and thoughtfulness were overwhelming, in the best way. Within weeks, we were inseparable. Weekend hikes turned into road trips, and late-night conversations about dreams turned into discussions about our future together. Ethan seemed like the man I had always dreamed of, kind, caring, and ambitious. 6 months after we started dating, he proposed during a romantic dinner overlooking the city skyline. As the twinkling lights of Austin glowed behind us, Ethan knelt down with a diamond ring and promised me a lifetime of happiness. I said yes without hesitation, believing that I was stepping into a life of love and security. Little did I know, the man I was marrying would soon become a stranger, and my life would spiral into a nightmare. Our wedding day was nothing short of magical. We had a small ceremony with close friends and family in a charming garden venue outside Austin. It felt like the perfect way to start our lives together. I wore a flowing white dress that made me feel like a queen, and Ethan looked dashing in his tailored suit. He held my hand tightly as we exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish me for the rest of our lives. For the first few months, he kept that promise. We moved into a lovely home in the suburbs, and I left my job at a publishing company to focus on building the life Ethan had envisioned for us. At his insistence, I became a full-time homemaker. "I'll take care of everything," he said with a reassuring smile. "You just focus on making our home perfect." At first, I enjoyed it. I poured my energy into decorating, cooking elaborate meals, and creating a warm and welcoming space for us. Ethan seemed to appreciate my efforts, showering me with compliments and surprising me with little gifts. I thought I had married the perfect man. But as time went on, things began to change. Ethan's warmth and affection slowly faded. Compliments were replaced with criticisms, and his once kind words turned sharp and hurtful. "Why is there dust on the shelves?" he would snap. "What do you even do all day?" I tried harder, thinking I wasn't doing enough. I scrubbed the floors until my hands ached, made gourmet meals every evening, and ensured the house was spotless. But no matter what I did, it was never enough for Ethan. His disapproval extended beyond household chores. If I spoke up or expressed my feelings, he dismissed me with cutting remarks. "You're overreacting, Nora. Stop being so dramatic." The man who once adored me had turned into someone I barely recognized, a man who saw me as nothing more than a servant in my own home. And yet, I stayed, clinging to the hope that the man I had fallen in love with was still somewhere inside him. It started as a faint redness on my cheek. Nothing alarming, or so I thought. I assumed it was a reaction to a new skincare product. Over the next few days, however, the redness worsened. Tiny blisters began to form, spreading across my face. They were itchy, painful, and impossible to hide. At first, I tried to manage it on my own. I avoided going out, hoping it would clear up, but the blisters grew larger, and my face became swollen and inflamed. The pain was unbearable, and even touching my face felt like being pricked with needles. When Ethan noticed, he recoiled in disgust. "What's wrong with you?" he asked, his tone as cold as ever. "I think I need to see a doctor," I replied, trying to stay calm. "Do you think money grows on trees, Nora?" he snapped. "It's probably just something you did to yourself." Stop overreacting. His refusal to help was a blow, but I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I called my parents, Janet and Richard Evans, and they arrived the next morning. My mother's face went pale when she saw me. "Nora, why didn't you call us sooner?" she said, her voice trembling with concern. Within an hour, my parents had me in the car and on the way to the hospital. The doctor examined me, and after a series of tests, he explained that I had a severe skin infection that required immediate treatment. If left unchecked, it could spread to other parts of my body or even become life-threatening. Hearing this, my mother squeezed my hand tightly, tears welling in her eyes. "We'll take care of you," she said. I was admitted to the hospital that same day. The doctor started me on antibiotics and prescribed several treatments to reduce the swelling and heal the blisters. My parents stayed by my side, visiting me every day, while Ethan remained conspicuously absent. Each time the hospital room door opened, I hoped it would be him, but it never was. Days passed, and I began to accept that he wasn't coming. I tried to focus on my recovery, but a small part of me still hoped that the man I married would show some concern. That hope shattered completely on the 6th day of my hospital stay. The door opened abruptly and Ethan walked in, his face a mixture of irritation and contempt. "Nora, this has gone on long enough," he said, his voice sharp and dismissive. I blinked in surprise, struggling to sit up. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" "This," he gestured toward the 4 attached to my arm and the machines monitoring my condition. "This whole drama. Do you have any idea how much this is costing?" "I'm not made of money, Nora." I stared at him in disbelief. "Drama?" "Ethan, the doctor said this infection could have been life-threatening if I hadn't come here. I didn't choose this." He scoffed, crossing his arms. "Oh, please. You're just sitting here letting everyone cater to you while I'm out there trying to keep things together. Enough is enough. You're coming home now." The frustration and anger I had bottled up for weeks finally spilled over. "You refused to bring me here, Ethan. If it weren't for my parents, I don't even know what would have happened to me. How dare you act like this is my fault?" His face twisted in rage, and he stepped closer to the bed. "Stop acting like a victim, Nora. You've always been good at making everything about you." Before I could respond, he grabbed the 4-pole next to my bed and yanked the line attached to my arm. Pain shot through me as the needle tugged against my skin. "Ethan, stop," I cried, clutching my arm in panic. The commotion caught the attention of the nurses, who rushed into the room with a security guard. "What's going on here?" one nurse demanded, her voice firm as she moved to shield me. "She's faking it," Ethan shouted, pointing a finger at me. "This whole thing is a waste of time and money." The security guard stepped forward, his expression calm but commanding. "Sir, I need you to step back and leave the room immediately." Ethan resisted, his voice rising. "You can't make me leave. She's my wife." The guard grabbed his arm firmly. "Sir, you're creating a disturbance. Leave now, or we'll call the police." Ethan's eyes darted between me and the staff, his face pale with fury. "You'll regret this, Nora," he hissed. "You think you can do this to me and get away with it?" The guard escorted him out, and I collapsed back onto the bed, tears streaming down my face. The nurse checked the 4-line, ensuring it was still in place, and gave me a reassuring squeeze on the shoulder. "You're safe now," she said softly. "We'll make sure he doesn't come back." That evening, the hospital reported the incident to the police, and Ethan was arrested. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. The day after Ethan was arrested, my parents and I met with a lawyer, Lauren Carter, a sharp and empathetic woman who immediately put me at ease. As I recounted the years of emotional neglect and the terrifying confrontation at the hospital, she listened carefully, taking detailed notes. "Nora, you've been through so much," Lauren said, her tone firm yet comforting. "But you've done the right thing by speaking up. We have more than enough to hold Ethan accountable both criminally and in family court." Lauren explained that Ethan's actions at the hospital constituted domestic violence and reckless endangerment. She assured me that the hospital staff's testimony, along with the security footage, would make a strong case. She also encouraged me to file for divorce and press for financial restitution. With her help, We began gathering evidence. The hospital nurse and security guard provided detailed statements recounting Ethan's violent outburst and his attempt to pull out my fore. The hospital security footage captured the entire confrontation, leaving no room for doubt. Additionally, my medical records documented my severe condition and the harm caused by Ethan's actions. Lauren also advised me to save any communication from Ethan, including voicemails he left after his arrest. Some were full of empty apologies, but others were thinly veiled threats. "You'll regret this, Nora. Don't think you can get away with ruining my life," one voicemail said. I handed everything over to Lauren, trusting her to handle the legal proceedings while I focused on my recovery. The courtroom was intimidating, but I walked in with my parents by my side, feeling a newfound sense of determination. Lauren presented a compelling case, starting with the hospital incident. The nurse and security guard testified, describing how Ethan had shouted at me and tried to remove my fore. The security footage was played in court, showing the extent of his aggression. Lauren then introduced my medical records, emphasizing how critical my condition was and how Ethan's actions could have jeopardized my life further. Ethan's lawyer attempted to downplay his behavior, calling it a moment of frustration, but Lauren didn't let that argument stand. "This isn't about one outburst," she argued passionately. "This is about a pattern of control, neglect, and abuse that Nora has endured for years." Ethan's actions were deliberate, reckless, and dangerous. When Ethan took the stand, he tried to shift the blame onto me, accusing me of exaggerating my illness and creating unnecessary drama. But his excuses fell apart under Lauren's relentless cross-examination. Piece by piece, she dismantled his defense, exposing his selfishness and cruelty for everyone to see. After hours of testimony, the judge delivered the verdict. Ethan was found guilty of domestic violence and endangerment. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison and ordered to pay all my medical expenses. The divorce proceedings were equally in my favor. The court granted me a clean break from Ethan, and I walked away with my dignity intact. The moment the judge finalized the divorce, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. I had spent years feeling trapped, but now I was free to start over. After the court case and divorce were finalized, I moved back in with my parents. It wasn't easy starting over, but I knew this was my chance to rebuild the life I had lost. My parents were a constant source of support, encouraging me to focus on my recovery and reminding me every day of my strength. Physically, I was improving. The treatments had worked, and the blisters on my face were healing. Although scars remained, I began to see them not as imperfections, but as reminders of my resilience. With each passing day, I grew stronger, both in body and spirit. Emotionally, the journey was harder. Years of neglect and abuse had taken their toll on my confidence, but I wasn't going to let Ethan's cruelty define me. I started therapy to process everything I had been through. My therapist helped me see that none of it had been my fault and that I deserved the peace and happiness I had long been denied. With my parents' encouragement, I began to explore new opportunities. I found a part-time job at a local bookstore, a quiet and comforting place where I could ease back into the workforce. Every day felt like a small victory. Getting up, going to work, meeting new people, and slowly reclaiming my independence. One evening, while journaling about my experiences, an idea struck me. What if I shared my story with others who might be going through similar struggles? I wanted people to know they weren't alone and that there was hope, even in the darkest times. With this in mind, I started a blog. I wrote about my journey, about surviving abuse, fighting for justice, and rediscovering myself. To my surprise, the response was overwhelming. People from all walks of life reached out, sharing their own stories and thanking me for inspiring them. The blog became a source of healing, not just for me, but for others. It gave me a sense of purpose and reminded me that I was stronger than I had ever imagined. Months later, I moved into a small apartment, a space that was entirely mine. Decorating it was a joy. Every piece of furniture, every painting on the wall, felt like a symbol of my newfound freedom. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. My days were filled with work, writing, and quiet moments of joy, cooking for myself, reading by the window, or simply walking through the neighborhood, feeling the sun on my face. Ethan had once tried to convince me that I couldn't survive without him. But here I was, thriving, proving him, and every doubt I had ever had about myself, wrong. I wasn't just surviving. I was living. And I was finally free. Thank you for watching. If you found Nora's story inspiring, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything. Let's keep sharing stories of strength and hope. See you in the next video.